welcome, and apologize for the mess up yesterday, but hope that I'm glad that was brought to my attention. Kathleen, thank you for letting me know. And also, please to just emphasize, I really appreciate any
We're to
feedback.
dedicate this to Lisa.
Yes, we do. We want to give it dedicated to Lisa's mom. Kathleen, you get the card today, the coffee card.
Yesterday too.
Yes, yes. So yes, we're going to dedicate it to Lisa's mom. And so it's dedicated to the memory of Rosa Iskin. And I'm going to may her memory be a blessing, and Le'ilui Nishmata, may her soul be elevated. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Give me a moment to get this right.
Lisa, was she musical?
Oh, yes. She sang in the synagogue choir with her mother, who was an opera singer. And she played piano and she would sing. And then when I was 5, we learned Tammy, and then I sang it at summer camp. Yeah, it was quite a musical family, theatrical also.
There, that's lovely. You came by it honestly, right?
Yes.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Well, okay. So we've had this encounter, and now we have moved along with Balaam going ahead with the chieftains of Balak. Vayishma Balak kiva Balaam. Balak heard that Balaam had arrived. Vayetze likrato, he went out to greet him, El Ir Moav, to the city of Moab, Asher al Gvul Arnon, which is on the border of the Arnon stream, Asher Biktzei Hagvul, which is on the edge of the border. Some Rashi on this. Vayishma Balak. Balak heard. So how did he hear? Shalach shluchim levasruo. He sent messengers to let him know. So of course the antecedent is Balak, right? So is it but on the other hand, it sounds like it's Balaam who sent messengers to let Balak know, or of course, that Balak sent messengers to let him know about it, to apprise him. It's not real clear just from the Rashi itself. I'm just trying to tease out here the ambiguity here. So I am going to, if I were to be a wagering person, I'm going to have to guess that it's going to be, well, Balak is the antecedent. Okay, I guess I can't wager, can't do it. El Ir Moav, to the city of Moab. And this is telling you the reference in Bamidbar Rabbah, in this Midrash on the book of Numbers. Look at this. El Matropolin Shelo. You hear the Greek word metropolis. There it is in Hebrew here, being borrowed. Rabbinic Hebrew very often borrows Greek words. We find many Greek words in Rabbinic Hebrew. Cross-cultural influence here. Okay, so in other words, to his metropolis, that is Balak's metropolis, Ir HaChashuva, the significant city, the important city, Shelo, his important city, or his most important city, Lomar, to say, in other words, what it was implying is to Balaam. He wanted to get across to Balaam. Re'eh, look, ma elu mevakshim la'akor. Look at what these, that is the Israelites, want to desire to uproot. So just trying to get him into the right frame of mind, right? Mood is important, how you feel about things. So important, need I say. Vayomer Balak el Bilam, Balak said to Bilam, Halo shaloach shalachti elecha. So he's kind of berating Balaam here. Balak is berating Balaam because he refused to come the first time, and he's bringing it up here, right? Halo shaloach shalachti elecha. Look, he said, I sent people to you. I sent to you likrolach, to call you. Lama lo halachta alai. Why didn't you go to me? Ha'umnam lo uchal kabdecha. Ha'umnam, sort of like it's indeed, right? Lo uchal, am I not able to honor you? So he's berating him. And we'll take a look at the Rashi here, ha'umnam. So a little bit of an unusual words, lo uchal kabdecha. So Rashi is parsing this out. Nitnabe, aha. Rashi is saying he didn't know what he was really saying. There were words coming out of his mouth, and instead of seeing it as an interrogative, the fact that he says it, nitnabe, he prophesied, that is Balak prophesied, shesofo latzet me'imo bakalon. He actually was prophesying to him that in the end, in the end, he would go out from him in disgrace. That is, so Balak didn't even realize when he said this that he actually was making a prophecy, that in fact he wasn't going to honor him. So again, just pulling out little literary strands here. So going back, let me just make sure where we are. Okay, the next verse. Vayomer Balaam el Balak, Balaam said to Balak, Hine, bati elecha. Look, he says, I've come to you. Ata hayuchal uchal, but now, ata with an ayin, now, hayachol uchal ladaber me'uma, am I able to speak anything? Hadavar asher yasim Elohim befi oto adaber. He says, the word that God puts in my mouth, that I will speak. So, interesting statement here, right? And certainly on the surface, it certainly sounds like a humble statement, right? On the other hand, there is a little bit of a pernicious underbelly here, because he's saying basically that anything that comes out of his mouth is going to be divine, essentially, that he is going to speak a divine word. So we need to understand this element that's going on here and what really is in Balaam's heart. I mean, he is happy to do this. And in fact, the spoiler alert, later on when he's unable to do it verbally, he knows how to get the Jewish people to provoke God's anger, and he will do it, and he will be successful at it. But he will pay for it. So onwards. I don't believe there's any Rashi on that. Nope.
Correct.
Onwards. Vayelech Balaam in Balak. Balaam went with Balak. Vayavo'u Kiryat Chutzot. And they came to the city of Chutzot. Kiryah is a word that we use, in fact, even now in modern Hebrew. So a town, something like that. Kiryat Chutzot, Ir Mele'ah. So because Rashi is pulling out this word Chutzot here, he says Ir Mele'ah Shvakim. It was a city filled with markets, Anashim, men, V'nashim, women, V'taf, and children, B'chutzoteha. There's the chutzot, right? The play on words, in its streets. Lomar, and again implying, Re'eh v'rachem, look and have mercy, Shelo ya'akru elu, that these should not be uprooted. So he basically was using geography and locale to get Balaam to completely consent to destroying the Israelites as much as he could, as this threat. Vayizbach Balak bakar v'tzon. So Balak offered up cattle and sheep. Vayishlach leBilam, and he had them sent to Bilam, v'lasarim asher ito, and to the chieftains that were with him. So maybe what we're really talking about is how he roasted them, something like that. Let's take a look at Rashi on this. So again, right, getting them in the right mood. Bakar vatzon, cattle and sheep. Davar mu'at. He tries to point out that it's bakar is singular, son is singular. Very often we understand that when we talk about it singular, we nevertheless are talking about a category, so that we might think it is that it's a number of them. Rashi points out again from Bamidbar Rabbah, davar mu'at, the minimum amount. Bakar echad, one cow, one bullock, something like that. Vetzon echad, and one sheep bilvad alone. In other words, he wasn't exactly being generous, is what Rashi's conveying to us here. Vayhi baboker, and in the morning, vayikach Balak et Bilam. Balak went and took Bilam. Balak took Bilam, vaya'alehu, and he brought him up Bamot Baal, in the heights of Baal. This is the name of a place. Vayar misham, and he saw from there, Ktsei ha'am, the edge of the people. In other words, some of them. We'll take a look at Rashi on this. So Bamot Baal, we'll see what exactly he's going to refer us to the Targum, which is Ramat Dachalte. That's and we know Baal was the name of an idol, right? Bamot Baal. Here we go. Ketargumo. So he says, as the Targum translates it, that's how we need to understand it. Leramat, or to the heights, Dachalte, of the thing he worshipped. Shem Avodat Elilim. It's the name of an idol. So again, what is Rashi conveying here? Let me see if I can do this. Sorry. Let me see if I can do this successfully. Trying. There we go. And that is, was he talking about some reference to idol worship? That was part of, in other words, that part of what was involved here was some sense of idolatry. And there's an irony here, because on the one hand, Balaam is claiming to know the words of God, and we do use the words like Elohim here. And my understanding is that he really is claiming to understand the same God that Israelites worship. And yet at the same time, he's taking him to Bamot Baal, which is very interesting that in fact, nevertheless, what was most important was this particular idol, which is, and idolatry is, of course, just to remind us, is a way of prioritizing. In other words, when you worship an idol, essentially what you're doing is you're putting at a higher priority something else other than the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's the nature of idolatry. So, and that's the nature of worship as well, by the way, has to do with how you prioritize. So it's an interesting exercise. We'll go on. We're on to the next page. Nope. Let's make sure, I want to make sure we're in the right place. Yes, chapter 23. Vayomer Balaam el Balak. So Balaam says to Balak, B'nei li vazeh shiv'a mizbachot. Build for me here, I think is what he means, bazeh. Build for me here 7 altars. V'hachein li, and prepare for me bazeh here, shiv'a parim v'shiv'a elim. 7 bulls and 7 rams. Some interesting Rashi on this.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't have any Rashi till 3.
Maybe that's where it is. I'll take a look. Could be. Yeah, you're right. That's where it is. Okay, let's keep going. We'll get to the place. But there is interesting Rashi on this. Vayas Balak kasher diber Bilam. And Balak performed, he did, kasher diber Bilam, just as Bilam had spoken. Vaya'al Balak, and Balak offered up, uvil, sorry, I left. Vaya'al Balak uvilam, and Balak and Bilam offered up par, a bull, va'ayil, and a ram, b'mizbeach, on the altar. So I would have to understand that since he had 7 altars, that's how, of course, each ram and each bull on each altar. Vayomer Bilam leValak, and Bilam said to Balak, Hityatsev al olatecha, stand by your offering, your olah, right, your burnt offering. Va'elcha, and I will go on. Ulai yikare Hashem. Now look at this, right? They're using the tetragrammaton here. So he's referring to Hashem, right? Perhaps Hashem, yikare likrati, will appear to me or appear to meet me. Udvar ma yar'eni, and whatever, and something, he will say something, he will show me something. Vehigadetilach, and I will tell you, I will recount to you the word Haggadah, right, that we use on Pesach, narrate to you, Vayelech Shefi, and he went, and I'm going to just say, just this word Shefi, and that word is hard to translate. You'll see in English translations sometimes meaning of this word not certain, uncertain. So we'll see. Rashi takes, I think, 2 positions on it, but let's see what goes on here. Okay. Ulai yikare Hashem likrati, or let me just make sure I have the vocalization with what he says. Yikare, yeah, it's a passive voice. Ulai yikare Hashem likrati. Eini ragil ledaber imi bayom. It is not customary for him to speak with me during the day. And that's why the word ulai, so perhaps. And that's the force of the perhaps, because it's daytime, and he was telling him that God didn't normally communicate with him during the day. Vayelech Shefi, so here's this word, right? And he went Shefi, and he says, Ketargumor, here we have to lean on the Targum, on the Aramaic translation, Yechidi, alone. And he says, Lashon Shufi V'Shaket. So it has the connotation of being at ease and quiet. In other words, like alone time, right? She'ein imo ela shtika, that there was nothing. Literally, this means that there was nothing with him but silence. In other words, only silence with him. So it's as if he had to go off and meditate, and he didn't need anybody else around him. He had to concentrate completely. That's one understanding of Shefi. So since that's all I'm seeing here, although I thought I'd seen other translations, that's what we have right here. Let's go on. Vayikar Elohim el Bilam. And God happened from the word kara, it happened. God happened to Bilam. And there's a connotation, because we know that when it comes to Moses, it says Vayikra with an aleph, to call out. And here there's no aleph. It's a different root. So it wasn't that God called to him, but rather, in a sense, made himself known to Bilam, just happened to make himself known. Vayomer elav, and he said to him, this is Bilam said to God, Et shivat hamizbachot arachti, I have set out, I've set out the 7 the seven altars, va'al par va'ayil b'mizbeach, and I have offered up a bull and a ram on each altar. And now we get into this Rashi. Vaikar. So Rashi tells us, Lashon Arai. It has the understanding of casual, just happened. Lashon Ganai. It also has a connotation of humiliation. Lashon Tumat Keri. See this word Keri, right? And it's a euphemism. Tuma, you already perhaps are familiar. The word tuma has to do with impurity. Keri has to do with a nocturnal emission. So tumat keri has to do with the impurity from a nocturnal emission. So I'm sorry to be so specific and clinical, but this is the implication, the sort of literary implication of the Torah using this word, that it's not a good situation here. It's not prophecy at its highest by any means. It's like the antithesis of a good prophetic experience. Klomar, that is to say, bekoshi, with difficulty, uvevizayon, and with disgrace. Velo haya nigla elav bayom, and what he's going on to tell us, that God did not appear to him during the day. Ella bishvil. So in other words, the fact that God appeared to him now, which was during the day, to Balaam, Ella bishvil laharot chibatam shel Yisrael. And the only reason God was doing this was out of God's love for the Jewish people, for the Israelites. Remember, Balaam says to God, I set up et shivat ha-mizbachot, the seven altars. And so the Rashi's picking up the fact that it's using the definite article here. It doesn't say seven altars, it says the seven altars. So it's referring to altars of which we are already aware. So here we go. Shiv'a mizbachot arachti ein ketiv kan. He says, it doesn't say I laid out seven altars, kan ela et shiv'at ha-mizbachot, but it says instead the seven altars. Amar lefanav, he said before him, avotehem shel elu, the ancestors of these, referring to the Israelites, banu lefanecha, built before you. This is him speaking to God, right? Shiv'a mizbachot, they built seven altars. Ani, and I myself, just by myself, arachti keneged kulam, I set up seven altars, applied, right? Opposite all of them. It took three of them to build seven altars. I myself, I alone, built seven altars. How do we know? Avraham bana arba'ah. We know that Abraham built four. So here they are. In Genesis chapter 12, Vayiven Sham Mizbeach Lashem, says he built there an altar to God, Hanir Ahalav, who appeared to him. And then in that chapter, it goes on to say, Vaya'atek Misham Hahara Vagomer. It says he moved from there towards the mountain, etc. And that's another place where he builds an altar. And let's see, Vaye'al Avraham Vagoel. And then in chapter 13, it says Abraham pitched his tent and set up an altar. The Echad Bahar Moriah. And we know of the one, of course, he built in Moriah, in Mount Moriah. Give me 1 second. Let me look here. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Vayitzchak Bana Echad. So we've got four. Isaac built one. Okay. And that's in Genesis chapter 26. Vayiven Sham Mizbeach. He built there an altar, etc. It goes on, the verse goes to say, Vayichru Sham Avdei Yitzchak Be'er, and the servants of Isaac dug there a well. Yaakov bana shnayim, and Jacob built 2 altars, and that's how we get a total of 7. Echad b'Shchem, one in Shechem. This is after he left Laban on his way back. Ve'echad beBeit El, and one in Beit El, and that's the area that's when he returned, and he was in Beit El, but that on his way back, and I think that was in the same place as Shiloh, where he had that dream. Va'al par va'ayil b'mizbeach, and I offered up a bull and a ram on the altar. Va'Avraham lo e'ela ela ayil echad, and Abraham only offered up 1 ram. That was all he did. So in other words, here is Balaam trying to get the better already in setting things up, getting ready to curse the Jewish people. And we're going to leave things here. And I'm going to, sorry, I don't know why I did that. I guess we've got a new situation here. Okay, and let me put in the marking. See? Okay, yeah. And that is here, right here. And we'll start, God willing, tomorrow at verse Hey. Okay, any last comments before I stop the recording?